So we're live. I know this is a surprise pop-up live. We're going live because it's quiet here. We've been having construction, as most of you guys know, and it actually looks like today they took off. So since we had peace and quiet. Hey, Vivian. Um, we decided to just take the opportunity to get on here. Hi, Debbie Lynn. Yay, thanks for signing up with StreamYard. And so I can see your name. We can see your names. We really love you guys and want to see your names. So we're going to talk about heaven. I just got off a call with Sandy, who's in our group. And for those of you who don't know Sandy, she and her husband Daniel are friends of ours. Daniel passed about a year before Alan did, and after a long bout with cancer. It was quite grueling, actually. And when Alan passed away, Sandy was still very much grieving the loss of Daniel, as you can imagine. And the interesting thing was that as soon as Alan passed, he and Daniel connected. And from that point on, Daniel became more present in Sandy's life and her reality. So we were talking about that today. I might post that interview, that talk. It was quite fascinating. It just shows what's possible if we open up to communicating with our loved ones on the other side. Because Alan was saying, I know he's told me this before, he's been saying that what's important, if we want to have that connection, if we want to have, he's saying, an ongoing connection, not just a one-time or periodic connection with them, is to regularly communicate. And in Sandy's case, she started writing to Daniel, like writing a question and writing his answer. And initially, of course, this is to be expected. Initially, she thought, is this him? Or, am I doing this myself? And Alan's saying to me that she wasn't really letting Daniel answer. She wasn't really letting Daniel come through, because it's a process. You have to practice. And she did. She stuck with it. And she says it helped being in this group. It helped that I was sharing my story with Alan, and she saw and Alan and Daniel together, like in dreams and things. It was quite fascinating. And Alan did tell me that he was working with Daniel to help Daniel get through to Sandy, and he began to. And now I kind of want to fast forward to now. The amazing thing is she feels him like all the time. He's there in her apartment. He's so present. She's talking to him. This takes time to get there, but she talks to him. First it was the writing. Now she says she can talk to him in her mind. It's like he's just there. He's just always answering her. And Alan says that the more we do that, the more we ground their energy into this physical 3D world. Okay, because they're not in the physical, obviously, but they're still in our world. He says, this is what you guys need to understand. The other side, they're right here. It's not some faraway place. And if there's someone that you love, regardless of the relationship, but especially, he says, if it's a partner, right, like a soulmate, twin soul, the love of your life, especially that relationship, that partner, he or she, they ain't going anywhere. They're going to wait for you, because they do wait for us. In fact, our loved ones on the other side, like our parents, maybe children, if they've passed before us, brothers, sisters, they all wait for us. They generally do not incarnate again without us. So they're all waiting. They don't go anywhere. And if you want that connection, you have to foster the communication. And we are going to teach that. I mean, Sandy and Daniel were a little bit ahead of that curve because Daniel was very intuitive and they had their own spiritual practices. And so they're not, Alan said, they're not like the average couple, but they're very much, other than that, they're nothing extraordinary about them. It's just that they were more spiritually aware of the fact that the other side is real, that what you can't see is actually the real world. And what you do see, like all around you, this is the illusion. This is the illusion world that we're living in. The real world is where our loved ones go to. That's the eternal real world. That's where we come from and where we will return to. So really it's, to me at this point, it's funny because I really look at this reality and see it for what it is, that it's a complete dream, that it's not real, but my relationship with Alan, even though he's not in a body, is realer than any relationship I have with anybody in a body. And Sandy and I were just talking about how the love we feel from both of our spouses is on this other level that we didn't even have when they were in a body, because they are now pure unconditional love. They don't have any issues. They don't have any hang-ups. They can't do anything but love us unconditionally. And they have nothing but time to devote to us, to be with us 100% and give all of their love to us, broadcasting it 24/7. Okay, so I experienced a joy unlike anything I've ever had with anybody, even with Alan when he was here, because he couldn't have given that to me, even if he had been more together, which he says he wasn't together. But even if he had been, he says nobody in a physical body is perfect. Nobody in a physical body can love in the way that they can when they cross over. The other, to me, fascinating thing about this whole situation and the relationship between us, between someone like me in a body like Sandy and our partner not in a non-physical realm, what do you call it, heaven or the other side, it doesn't matter, same to us. But that relationship has the potential to transform your life when you can get beyond the grief, forge a relationship with your loved one on the other side, feel their love viscerally, and you can. It's not physical. It's not like you can reach out and touch them, right? But I want to share this because it was something she and I were talking about, and I had experienced this, and she gave me some feedback on it. You can't touch them because they're not solid, right? But it doesn't mean you can't have a sense of them. And some of you may have had that already, feeling like your loved one gave you a hug or held your hand or what have you. Well, what I found with Alan was he would tell me, like if I put my hand like together, like this, right? And this is when he's really blended with me. I feel as if that's his hand. It is the most bizarre thing. I'd go, this doesn't feel like it's just my hand. It feels like, and Sandy said she's had the same experience where she'll touch her hand and she feel, and then as she and I are talking about this, because she says, yeah, I touch my hand and I feel like it's Daniel. And Alan said, because we layer ourselves over you, and it is our hand. Our hand becomes your hand. Okay. Alan early on told me when he was trying to, he was trying to make physical contact with me. And I don't mean physical, right? I mean more a visceral sensory experience. He told me to hug myself, and that everywhere that I would touch myself, would touch my body, would hug myself, whatever. He said, that's me. I'm merging with you, and that is me. And yeah, you're gonna feel it's you, of course, because it is you. But it's more than you. It's more than you. It's me too. So he would have me keep doing that. And in my book, by the way, I do have a chapter called Supernatural Sex. Because yes, you can have supernatural sex, and we're gonna go more into detail with that. PG-13, maybe R-rated, I don't know, but you definitely can have supernatural sex. Okay, that is actually, guys, the easy part. That's the funny thing. The supernatural sex part, that's easy. Isn't it? Believe it or not. The harder part, and even that's not hard, but the more challenging part is communicating, like seamlessly, like you can really, you're talking to them and they're talking to you. Okay, that usually for people takes a little practice, and that part I came to understand early on. That was the most important, because if you don't have the communication, you don't have a relationship, do you? Think about it. Even if you, because some people think, well, if I could just see my loved one, like clairvoyantly, like I could see them, that, trust me, if you just saw them, you would go, wow, I can see him or her. Wow. But that's not going to give you the connection. You just see them. And trust me, that is amazing, and that can happen for you too. But it's the communication that is critical, right? Like in any relationship, just because you're, even in the physical world, even if your partner's there and you can see him and he's next to you, and even if he holds your hand and gives you a hug, if he's not talking to you, what do you have? You don't have a relationship. If you can't share, if you can't talk, you can't say, hey, this is what happened to me. And they can't say, oh, that's cool. Well, what about this? Or what about that? Or, hey, you can't have the back and forth conversation. I mean, you don't have a relationship. So early on, I realized I want to talk to you. I have to figure out how to do this in a way that I know is real, that I can feel, that I can count on. And that took a little time, even for me, even though I'm what we call clairaudient, like I can hear psychically. But it's definitely doable. Okay, definitely doable. So, yes, there is supernatural sex. And yes, you can have a relationship with your loved one. Okay. Everyone will vary in their terms, their ability to make that contact, including those on their side. Alan says there are souls on the other side who are strong at coming through. And if they're strong at coming through, then, and the loved one here, he says, is not too stuck in their grief, because grief creates this kind of like a fog around you that they have a hard time breaking through. But if your grief is either lighter or, just not as heavy, they can reach you. But he says, some souls on their side are strong enough they can even blast through that. I mean, Alan actually had the ability to break through my grief. He says only because he's stronger spiritually than the average person, because he lived his life as a psychic medium, a spiritual psychic medium. So he's saying he has the psychic energy to kind of break down the walls that I have. But I still had to do my work. I had to do my part to clear up my anger and resentment that I had toward him, that I share more in the book, because we had issues. Nobody in a physical body who has a relationship has a perfect relationship. I don't care how much you love each other. Okay. Nobody's perfect. So you will, and you do, and you have hurt each other, correct? So those things have to be addressed. They need to be released so that there's no more barrier. There's no block. There's only love, like on our side. On their side, if there was something we did when they were here, they've forgiven us. Okay, they've forgiven us. But there's a lot on their side. They need to be forgiven. I just listened to a medium say something to that effect, that there's a lot of negativity. I mean, this may sound weird, kind of negativity over there, in the sense that there are a lot of souls in heaven that still are weighted by what they did when they were here, and that they're carrying guilt or remorse about it, and it weighs on them, and they are concerned about their loved ones here. So if we can heal the relationship with them, if that was the case, then that lightens them up, that helps them, that helps us, obviously. So there's a lot of healing that needs to happen when we're reaching out to the other side. And I know the ins and outs of that, but at this point I've been through a lot myself, and still clearing a little bit more, but most of it's done. But Alan says we have written the handbook on how to do this, because there was no handbook, he said, so we had to go write one. Now what does he say? Okay, so now he's saying let's talk about what I mentioned in the write-up for what we were going to talk about today, because I want to address this, because I've heard some of these questions posed by other people, and one of them is, somebody said to me or asked me, I heard that when somebody passes, there's like a holding place, that they don't go immediately to heaven, and that is complete BS. Okay, not true. There's no holding place, no purgatory. What I read in my research, and I believe this is true, Alan's saying this is pretty much true. Purgatory was a concept that was created, like a lot of things. Remember, guys, for example, I'm not picking on the Bible. I'm not picking on Christians. I love, trust me, I love Jesus. When I was a child, I was always talking to Jesus. Jesus was my guy. He still is my guy. But I wasn't raised in a heavy religious, family. My mom took me to church, and when they wouldn't let me go in the church because I was like 6, they made me go to Sunday school, and I complained. I said, but I only want to come to talk to God. I don't want to talk to other kids. I don't want to sit in a classroom. I do that 5 days a week. I told my mom, I want to be in the church with the stained glass windows, and I want to talk to God and Jesus. I don't want to be in a classroom. And my mom was very forward thinking. My mom was very open-minded. So she said, okay, well, you don't have to go, but you can't go in the church. They won't let you. So I said, well, I don't want to go then. I'll just talk to Jesus on my own. Or I always love the movies at Christmas time about Jesus. I was just such a strange kid. I loved stories about Jesus, but I was not religious. So there is no purgatory. There is no holding place. I read somewhere that was created because at a time in history, I don't remember when this was. This is back in the past. There was a time in history there was a lot of suicides going on. And they had to come up with something to drive it home to people that it was like a sin to kill yourself. They had to get a handle on this. So they came up with that. Okay? Just know that what's in the Bible and all the other religious texts, all right? That material, do you think it just appeared from above? It just appeared in a book and it was magically transported here? No, guys, all religious text has been channeled, came through a human. And anything, and I don't care what it is, anything that comes through a human vessel, a physical person, okay, is not going to be 100% accurate. And especially a text like the Bible, which was changed, edited, things were taken out. Everybody knows that. Okay, there's stuff that's been removed. So you can't. And I took Alan and I took a training with Dr. Willard Fuller, who for a week we studied with him and got ordained, and we loved his teaching. But he believed that the teachings of God and the Bible, we went over the Bible. He took us through the Bible, but he said the teachings of God should be made manifest. You should see like physical like effects. That was his perspective, and I agree. And he said that a lot of things in the Bible are misunderstood. So you have to take all that with a grain of salt and understand that. We're definitely not putting down religion. Like Diane says, yes, all religious texts are man-made. So you cannot base your life on it, guys. And now I want to remind you, remember the context of when the material was written. Historically, the context of the time. So you cannot interpret it literally and say it applies to now. Okay, it just doesn't work that way. All information has to be upgraded and expanded because consciousness is always changing. We're always changing. Everything has to evolve. It cannot stay the same. You cannot live your life based on something that was, thousands of years old. The times are different. Somebody was saying, I love stories about Jesus when I was a kid too. Great. We love those stories because we knew they were true, right? When you're a kid, you know what's true. Because until you get older and people talk you out of things, you start believing like the adults or other people around you, and you go, well, maybe I'm wrong. When you're a kid, you just go, oh, something about this feels true to me. I love this. Something about this makes me happy, right? Isn't that how kids are? They just know what they love. They know what they like. They know what they don't like. They don't have any filters, which is kind of good in a way because they just know what they feel and they trust what they feel, and they don't care like a kid, don't care what somebody says until they're made to feel bad or told that they're wrong. Hold on, I know some of you are commenting. I don't want to lose everybody. Somebody asks, let me show this. Experience where a loved one that after passing came through another person, not like a medium, but in that person's mannerisms or what they would say to me, like a message, or their mannerisms that remind me of them. Does that make sense? Totally makes sense. They can do that. Okay, so on the other side, they're completely psychic. Like, actually, you are completely psychic too. It's just that you've had it kind of programmed out of you. But when you're born, most people, Alan's saying almost everybody, they're completely psychic. Completely psychic, no filters, can see everything, sense everything. It just kind of gets lost as you get older and people start telling you you're crazy or you're making it up or it's imaginary. But we're born psychic. Nobody is not psychic. And that's why we say everyone can be a medium. If you're human, you can be a medium. Medium is basically somebody who can just talk to everyone, including someone non-physical. Okay, because you're just wired that way. It's just who you are. You've just been, the saint wants to use the word brainwashed. Been brainwashed that you can't do that. You've been brainwashed that your imagination is make-believe, an illusion. And he says, but there's a reason why they tell you that, because they don't want you to know the power you have, the power that your imagination has in your life, in your reality. So they had to convince you of the opposite. He says a lot of life would work better for you if you looked at the things you were taught, not all of it, okay, but some of the things you were taught, if you looked at them and said, oh, it's opposite. Like, it's opposite. It's like the upside down world. It's opposite. Okay, there is no death. This life is the unreal life. This life is the illusionary life. The other side is the real world, the real life. When you're here, you're less alive than when you're, quote, dead. Because when you're on the other side, you have all of your senses. You have no ego, personality. You don't have any fear. You just know that you're God. And as I was talking to Sandy today about this, I said to her, Alan has said to me so many times before, he said, I wish I had a body, because it was not just because then we could be together, but he said, you guys don't understand. You guys here in a body don't understand. You could have it all while you're here in a body. If you understood who you really are and could expand your consciousness more, because even on the other side where they're unlimited, completely unlimited, they don't have a body right now, right? Or we'd see them. We could say, hey, honey, let's go out to dinner. Let's go for a walk. But they don't have a body. So Alan said, do you guys understand you have a body still? And if you come fully alive while you're here, in your body, all of us could have it all, that they don't have it all. They have to wait till they incarnate again and take on a body. And your loved one on the other side can help you expand yourself so that you do come fully alive. That's what's happening to Sandy and me. Okay, we are becoming more alive than we were before because of our loved ones who's pouring their love onto us, who's guiding us, teaching us, helping even orchestrate things, because they do that on the other side. You know how the angels get credit a lot for things, like people say, oh, my angel saved me, or my angel got me the job, and Alan's saying they do. He says they do, absolutely. He said, but a good, maybe, hard to say exactly, but a good half of that, 50% of the quote miracles that humans experience, he said they are the result of your loved ones in heaven, because they are angels too. And he says they have a vested interest in protecting us and helping us, okay, because they love us. So they are also guiding and protecting and yes, creating miracles and saving us. Okay, and Alan says it's good to think of them as they are angels. Okay, because really, angels, just like Alan likes to say the word archangel, all of those are just job descriptions. We're all angels on the other side. Okay, he doesn't want to get into that, but that's the basis of it. So your loved ones can help you tremendously. So hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. If you're not in StreamYard, I can't see your name. And Diane says, yes, you're correct. All information changes. That's right, consciousness changes. I was brought up very Catholic. Do not believe all that they taught. Jesus, Buddha, all ascended masters taught the same. Yes, all about love. Not all religion is taught with love. That's true. A lot of religions are very judgmental, right? But they're from humans. And then Alan goes, remember, not just humans, from men. And he goes, and let's face it, he goes, men are power hungry. These weren't written by women. He goes, sorry, he was a guy, so he says he can bash his own sex, He says that's the truth of it, right? The male energy, the patriarchal society has been very oppressive. So you got to remember that. Religious texts are the patriarchy. Okay, we don't have to bash all men. We can say the patriarchy is, is the bad guy. Yes, Maria, I can see you now. Oh, you had to re-sign with StreamYard. Okay. Hey, okay, I see you now, Maria. Let me see. Okay, let me go back to what I was going to address. So, there is no purgatory. Got it? No purgatory. Everybody goes to heaven except for this. Okay, everybody goes to heaven. No exception. Doesn't matter what you did. If somebody died through suicide, they go to heaven. Okay, there's nobody's held back. If a soul doesn't go right away, there can be reasons for that, but it's not about judgment. It can be that they're confused, that they didn't know they crossed, that it was happened suddenly, so they don't know. They're kind of out of it. Okay, so and even then, they have loved ones on the other side who come try to help them. Reach out and try to help them, say, come to the light, come with me, but they could still be confused for a while. So generally speaking, and remember, this is generally speaking, it's a good idea to pray for people and when they cross, because especially if that person wasn't spiritually aware, that they may be confused and a bit lost, and so your prayers, do help kind of usher them over the threshold, but they're getting help. No soul dies alone. I know there's a lot of, because of what happened with COVID, what is happening with COVID, people were so upset that their loved ones are dying alone. Nobody is alone. When you're living, you're not alone. There's always beings in your space. Don't want to freak you out, There's always beings in your space. Your house is full, some more than others, more often than not with benevolent beings, okay, who are there. But we share our space. And again, don't get freaked out. You're watching too many horror movies. It's not like that. So nobody crosses alone. Whether that person is in a hospital bed supposedly alone or dies at home with all their family there are a lot of beings that come through. A loved one from the other side, the one who is maybe closest to that person. And if not, it will be an angel or angels that come to be with that person. And they always have help. They always have help crossing. Like I said, it's only if they died suddenly, like an accident, or sometimes people are just, maybe they're medicated. They're so medicated, they're kind of confused. Then they need more help, but they always get help to cross over. Also, the other exception, there are souls who just are really attached to the earth plane. Like they just don't want to leave. Like they just want to stay. And so that's why you will have a phenomenon like ghosts, like a soul that will just stay here. Because either they don't know they're dead, so they're hanging around. They don't know, how come nobody's talking to me? How come I can't, get anybody to notice me? Or they really just want to stay here because they just don't want to leave. So because you have free will. But again, that's self-imposed. That's not a judgment. Like, okay, you're bad. You're going to have to go somewhere. And of course, there's no hell. You guys do know that. There's no hell. Hell is of your own creation. You can create that if you want. So there is no other place. There's only the one place. And there is no purgatory. There's no hell. And usually, as soon as somebody crosses over, pretty quickly, they go through their life review. You review your life. You especially look at the people closest to you. You are experiencing how you impacted them, how you treated them, what you said, did, whatever. You see the people you helped, the people who you hurt, and you feel what they feel. You step into them because we're all one. You experience what they experienced because of you, for good or ill. And there's no judgment around that. You're not criticized for this. It's just for you to see how you did, just to see your soul's growth. Okay. In Alan's case, he said he thought when he crossed over that he would go through his life review and it would be great. And he'd see like all the people he helped, which he did. He helped so many people as a psychic medium in his years of traveling the world, doing readings all over Hong Kong, Japan, Singapore, Australia, I think Egypt, all over, US, and of course England. And then when he was here in Hawaii, he had clients here and all over the world on the phone. So he thought, well, I did well. I helped so many people and I had a good marriage, etc. And then he did his life review and he experienced what I went through, and he was devastated because he saw the times, and there weren't many, okay, so don't get me wrong, there weren't many, but there were times when he had been cruel. One time in particular that I share in the book, where he completely kind of decimated me emotionally when my mother had passed, and I didn't understand why he had been so mean. Cruel, really mean, and I ended up getting really sick because I was wide open to him and really happy, and he basically, that all my energy just collapsed because he kind of attacked me emotionally because he was upset, and it was coming from fear, his fear. So he saw that, he felt that, because I remember how it felt. It felt like somebody had stabbed me in the heart or punched me in the gut, and I could hardly breathe. I was like reeling, and then next day I got asthma, and I had that for like 3 years, and that was connected. And he saw that, felt that, and he told me later, he was just devastated. He was in tears, like, how could I have done that? And then he saw other things where he had gone wrong, and he had hurt me, and how he had been the basically set up the problems in our marriage that he thought had been so good. And it was good in many, many ways. It was good, but it could have been better. And he saw that and said, I got to come back. But not only come back to give Pam the love that she never got from me, that I always had for her, but also because we have a soul agreement to do the work that we're doing right now. And he came back to tell me that. And I wasn't even that aware that of all the hurt that he'd caused me until I had to process that. And then I got really mad at him. I got really mad at him, and I said, God, you were an a-hole. And he said, I know, I'm kicking myself. And that's just an example. Our story is an example of how a very common scenario in many relationships where, we don't give everything that we have to the person, even if we love them, because we've got issues. So, they hold us back. So anyway, he's saying that understand you. Everyone goes through their life review. They see everything from the broader perspective of their life. They understand now why they had to go through what they went through, why they had the problems they had. They understand everything, and they let go of their ego personality. They've let go of it, unless they want to hang on to it, and some people do. But most of them, they drop their ego, and they keep some of their personality traits so that we would recognize them. But they're at a higher level now. Okay, so they're more loving. Their vibration is higher. So sometimes people here who are still behind here, live here, might not quite recognize them because they feel lighter. And if that person wasn't like that when they were here, it may seem strange because they may have changed a lot. And again, Ellen says it depends, because not everybody goes through a dramatic change. Some of them do. Some of them, they just seem like the same. So Tammy says, I never bought into the whole purgatory thing. Even as a child, it didn't make sense to me. I always thought that it was a way for man to control man through fear. Right. Like Ellen says it was. It was like parents trying to control wayward children and threatening them. Like, okay, if you don't do this, the boogeyman's going to get you, or you're going to go to purgatory. He's shaking his head going, oh, so messed up. So many, so much injustice and suffering has been caused by religion. And religion is really just a belief system. Now, let's get clear. It's just a belief system. That's all it is. People have a certain worldview. So Diane says, yes, my mom passed 2 years ago to COVID. I was in deep grief, and now I talk to her every day. She's there. I know she is. Thank you, Pam. You're right. She is there. They're all here. They're all like waiting for that's some faraway place. They're like right here. You can talk to them. You just have to break through your belief that you can't, right? And because you live in a world where people would either make fun of you or not understand or think you're crazy, think it's wrong even. But, they're the ones that they don't know any better. They don't know what they're talking about. All right, so that's why I think I did answer that there are such things as ghosts, souls that are hanging around. And Alan says they always have the opportunity to go to the light. But if he wants me to say some people attract spirits to them more naturally, and because the other side, they can tell if you can see them. It's like you kind of give off a light, and so they gravitate toward the light. And there are people who report like seeing deceased people, like I don't know, like in their bedroom, like all around them. And with those people, the problem they have, if that's happening to them, is that they don't have good boundaries, because you have to have strong personal boundaries, which would correlate to spiritual boundaries. And if you don't know how to set boundaries with people, you can't set boundaries with the other side. So they'll notice that you're light and they'll want to come through. And and they'll be trying to get a message to their loved one. And yet at the same time, it's not likely that they're going to tell you, oh, her name is so-and-so and this is her address. They're just going to say, well, she did get a message to my daughter, blah, 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 blah. Here's the message. And you'd be sitting there going, I don't know how to find your daughter. Like, what's her name? Like, where does she live? So that happens to some people, that they're being pestered by spirits on the other side who can tell that they can see them or hear them. And they want to get this message through. So Alan says, remember, if that ever happens to you, or you hear that happening to somebody tell them they don't have to be the telephone to the other side. Okay, that's their choice. He says he doesn't recommend it, but understand that the other side, there's so much want to come through. If they see somebody who could get the message through, they could go up to that person and try to, barge in, say, give this message to my wife or my child or what have you. And if you've ever seen the movie Ghost Town with Ricky Gervais, Alan really loves Ricky Gervais. God, not only because he's British and he's just got a wacky sense of humor like Alan has. so he always liked Ricky Gervais. And Ricky Gervais is kind of irreverent too. He's kind of like, I don't give a, shit. See, Alan's going, see, Pam, my wife, she can't even swear. He tries to make me swear. And he has made me swear at one client to get her attention. But anyway, in that movie, he has like a near-death experience that leaves him with the ability to see spirit. And so all of these spirits like know that he can see them, and they start following him around, following him in the street, showing up in his bedroom because they want him to pass the message on. And that's how it can be for some people. I'm saying literally. But just like in that movie, Ricky, like, he didn't have time to deliver their messages. Now, he does end up doing that a little bit in the movie, but that was just the movie. So Alan's saying in real life, if somebody finds themselves being pestered by spirits from their side, they're going to have to develop boundaries. They're going to have to decide, is this really something I'm here to do? And how are you going to do that? Okay. So, but that does happen. Now, does anybody have, okay, last question was, what about Satan and the devil? All right. There is no Satan. However, just because there's no real Satan, because there's only God, okay? Can we get that clear with everybody? Now people say, there's God, but God also created Satan. Okay, well, I'll give you that a little bit only because I would like you to start also thinking as God as consciousness. That God is really consciousness. That's why we can say we're all God, because we're all consciousness. And if God is all there is, and if God is consciousness, and we're all consciousness, then that also means that if we create something called Satan, okay, which Alan says we've kind of conjured that up, then in that sense, yeah, Satan exists because we created that, okay. But again, that's an illusion, because the only reality is love, and love is not Satan. You're so powerful as a creator, as a consciousness, that you can create the illusion that there is a Satan, or that you're Satan, or that somebody else is Satan, or you're that powerful. But it's still something you created that you could uncreate. And if it's not love, it's an illusion. So you could create a hell for yourself. Alan's saying people are doing that right now in a body in this world. They're creating a hell that they're living in. And they can go on the other side. And he says they could try to create a hell on the other side, but it's kind of hard, because he says it's just hard. You could try, but you quickly find out, like, whoa, it doesn't really stick because there's too much love here. I can't really create hell. And he's laughing now because he says, you'd be surprised how many people think they go to heaven and they assume because they were bad, let's say. like, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. I'm dying and I'm crossing over and I'm going to go to hell. And they're expecting to see hell. And he says, and they don't see it. And they think, what happened? It's, he says they're very confused because that's just not the reality on the other side. He says at the worst they're going to create is something, he's showing me like an environment for themselves that's very cold or sterile, but it's not really hell. He says because most people, souls do not really want to create hell for themselves. Like if you did, when you were in a body, if you said, oh, I'm so bad, I should go to hell, I really should go to hell, and you imagine hell and you say, I'm going to go to hell because I'm such a bad person. He says that part of you creating it is not really you. That's not the true you. That's the distorted you, right? That's your ego personality that's flawed, that's really traumatized. So if you create that, it's not going to show up in heaven. You're just not going to find it when you cross over. You create what you imagine, but that part of you that's distorted is creating something that isn't going to be there in heaven because it came from a distorted part of you. Does that make sense? So the true part of you, the God part of you is also there as well as your distorted part. The God part of you doesn't want to go to hell. Nobody really does. And so it wants love, it wants peace, it wants joy, the part of you that is true, that is eternal. That's what you create when you cross over. If you're deeply religious and you, like I've heard, like a soul maybe really wants to see Jesus when they cross over, they'll see Jesus. Jesus will be there. Jesus is there. They're going to see the heaven that they want to see, but it's not going to be, what Alan is saying is it's not going to be a heaven where anyone is judged. So he says there are a lot of people who get to heaven and they're so shocked that the friends they have that weren't of their religious faith are there because they thought that they wouldn't be there because they didn't share the same religion. And then they're like, oh, I guess we're all here together. Right. That's how it is, because nobody's judged. Nobody's left out of heaven. It doesn't matter your religious belief. It doesn't matter if you're atheist, agnostic. It doesn't matter. All souls go to the same place. But he says it's funny. And some people, when they get to heaven, they can't believe they're there because maybe they felt they did do something bad, and and they don't see how they could deserve being there. So they take a while to adjust. Like he says they kind of get counseling so they understand that no, this is real. This is he's also laughing at there are people who cross over who, when they were here in a body, they didn't believe all this stuff, right, that we're talking to you about the paranormal, about the other side, about that we don't die, that and then when they get over there, they're shocked and go, oh, I guess this was all true. Like, and he says there's so many people that just said, oh, all that paranormal psychic stuff, that stuff is real. Oh my God, I thought it was all fake, and they have to accept the fact that no, that's the real world. So Alan says, don't worry, if you don't believe, you will later. Everybody eventually believes, eventually gets converted to what the truth is. Okay. So are there any other questions about heaven? I'm seeing if something Alan wants to say. Okay, he just wants to hope I addressed everybody's questions or comments. I think I have. Okay. So the other side is the real world. So somebody's saying, hold on, to address this. Somebody's saying, sorry, I don't know who your name is because you're not StreamYard. All this info is what my personal beliefs have been, except that I did think that people that commit crimes like murder have some kind of afterlife consequences. No, there's no consequences. And I know that really upsets people, to think that somebody could commit a crime and there be no consequences. But there aren't any consequences because, that said, it doesn't mean, again, that the soul crosses over. They don't have remorse. or regret. Okay, but there's no punishment. If there was, quote, punishment, it's experienced by the soul as the remorse, because they're going to experience the murder that they committed. They're going to experience, if they killed people, how each person died. Okay, so Alan would say to you, that's kind of punishment by itself. I remember reading about a medium was saying she did a reading for a mediumship reading for somebody. The man had been a contract killer, a hitman. I think he'd killed 100 people, 200 people. I don't know, large number of people. He went through his life review, and that was hell, because he had to experience every single murder they had committed. Okay, that's what if there's punishment, that's what it is. Okay, so they don't get off with a slap on the wrist. Okay, they get to experience what they did, but there's no higher power condemning them or saying you're bad, you're wrong, this is, you got to go to jail or you're going to go to hell. No, they get that. Alan says, trust him. That is worse than hell. Having to experience the hundreds of people that you may have killed. That is something. Also, that those souls who have committed atrocities will often want to come back fairly quickly to try to make amends. And sometimes this is not always the case, but quite often those souls will come back and dedicate their life to humanitarian causes. These are the people who feel just overwhelmingly compelled to right wrongs in the world, and they dedicate all their energy and time and resources to maybe saving the planet or going supporting some other philanthropic organization or charity, what have you. Okay, they can get very obsessed with those projects, and a lot of times because they're trying to again balance their karma. They committed those atrocities. Now they're trying to correct that. They're trying to, but nobody's making them. Okay, this is the soul saying, I need to balance it out. No, I did that. Okay, fine. I'm going to do this. Somebody's asking me, do we have to sign into StreamYard each time? You shouldn't have to. But Alan's just reminding me that we just had dropped StreamYard and just kind of signed back into it. So it could be that that's what's happened to you and also to Maria, because we had let our StreamYard lapse for a little bit, and then recently, we signed up again with it. So yeah, you might need to re-sign with it, but you shouldn't have to after this. Okay, so sorry about that. Yeah, hi Madeline. Yeah, and Madeline. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you commenting about what I just said? Okay, you're saying Madeline saying, okay, I agree with Alan. If they feel their victim suffering, hell, guys, that's punishment enough. Can you imagine? Alan's saying even experiencing one person's pain that you caused, he goes, it is devastating, because when you cross over, if you think, some of you are really sensitive now, some of you are what we call empaths, meaning that you feel everyone's feelings, everyone's emotions. It's hard for you not to, right? When you cross over, you're a high level empath. You feel at this whole other level, okay? So if you go through your life review and you experience just the grief that you caused somebody because, like he says in his case, because he was mean to me and he felt like my pain and how I was just crushed inside, and he said that was hard enough. He goes, can you imagine if I had killed somebody and you have to experience their terror or their suffering? He goes, that, my friends, is hell. So hell is of the person's own creation. So don't think that anybody gets off lightly, but they're only reaping what they themselves sowed. They're not being punished. It's all right. So you're creating your own reality, and you're going to experience whatever it is that you created. It all comes back to you. If you created good and help people, you get to feel all that. Okay. And Vivian says, which I can imagine that's bad enough. Yeah, that bad enough. That soul that got the contract killer, apparently, in the reading, the woman said that the guy was screaming, like he couldn't take it anymore. he was just like, get me out of here. He couldn't take it, that he was feeling all the pain and suffering of all the people that he had killed. So that's what it is. You experience what you create. That's what it is. So, okay. So anybody have a question or comment or anything? We'll be talking more about heaven, but we wanted to come on with this. I'm trying to think of something else that. Okay. Yeah, he was facing his own consequences, Vivian says. Right. We're all dealing with the consequences of our own choices, right? This is how life is. But there's no punishment involved. There's no other force out there trying to judge us and say you're guilty and this is what you have to. We are harder on ourselves actually a lot of times, he says. And if somebody doesn't appear to be, they appear to be maybe narcissistic or sociopath or what have you. He goes, they're just twisted. So that's not the real them anyway. Okay, so the last thing I think Alan's telling me he wants to talk about before we go, because we'll wrap this up. We keep this at about an hour, is to understand that what we're about in the group is helping those who want to forge a connection, an ongoing connection with their loved one on the other side. Loved ones, not just, it doesn't have to be just one. Loved ones on the other side, but especially, of course, a partner, spouse. Only because that's what I have with Alan, right? But it doesn't mean that if you're here and you want to connect with your mother or your father, that can't be your focus too. Of course it can. But he's saying that the bond between partners is deeper because your spouse, your partner, is part of your identity in a way that your parents will never be, in a way that even your children will never be, okay? Because you don't have a marital contract or a partner kind of contract with a child, no matter how much you love that child. But a partner, a soulmate, twin soul, whatever you want to call that is a different connection. And that's why that connection, when it's severed, can be completely devastating. Okay, because he's saying the reason it feels so all-encompassing and so deep, the pain, is because that person was part of your identity. The reason you fall in love with somebody is because being with them actually does make you a better person. Your energy becomes woven with theirs, and they're you and you are them. And even if you have difficulties, which we all have, okay, nobody's relationship is perfect. Even if with the difficulties, there is expansion of you, of your consciousness. Okay, so when they're, I don't want to say taken from your life, because death to us is always a choice, because the soul, we all have to go sometimes, and there's many reasons why soul departs when they depart. So it's not like they're victims. It's not like something happened to them. It's not like they were taken from us, but it feels like it, right? And we understand that's how it feels like. It feels like you're robbed of them, or they're taken suddenly from your life. The reason it feels so devastating is because they're part of you. And we want you to understand that they're still part of you, even though they're not here in a body. They will always be part of you. That is impossible to lose. Okay, you could convince yourself you've lost it, and then Alan says, then you can have that reality that they're lost to me. And he says many people are choosing that reality. They're choosing to believe that they're gone and they're going to stay devastated and in grief and in loss. And trust me, I know what that feels like. Okay, I've been there. I know what it's like to grieve the loss of, in our case, of my twin soul, because he is my other half, and it's unbearable. And I also think it's unbearable because it's a lie. That's why I wrote my poem, Death is a Lie. And when we believe a lie, it tears our soul apart, because our soul knows that this can't be true. They can't be dead to me. They can't be lost to me. And the truth is, they're not lost to you. They're right here. I mean, right here. I mean, really, Alan is right here. Sandy can feel her husband all around her, sometimes closer in, and Alan too. I can feel him in certain places more than, and I know where he is in my space. I can sense him now, or he tells me like, oh, I'm standing behind you, or whatever. Okay, and I feel his presence, and I feel his love, and it fills me up and makes me whole. I still cry and I miss him, of course, physically, but that's my body missing him, and I'll always miss it. But the greater part of me, the true eternal part of me, feels satisfied, fulfilled, loved, cherished, honored, complete. Okay, and I would have never thought that was possible to experience that after having lost my husband, and he's been gone now 10 months. Just 10 months. And I'm happier. Not all the time, like I said. This is a journey of ups and downs. But I would say 80% of the time, I am happy, because I have that connection. And he's saying we, want nothing more than to give other people opportunity to have that same connection. Because here's the deal. Okay, he's coming through really strong with this. The reason why there's so much negativity on the earth plane, and I want you to think about this. The reason there's so much negativity on the earth plane, it comes from grief. Grief. And we're talking not just about the grief that some of you have had because you've lost loved ones, which I know is heartbreaking, and I totally feel your pain. I don't read anybody's story of their loss of their loved one without feeling the pain, because we're all one. But the reason there's so much grief is because there has been so much loss on this planet, because so many people have died and left things unfinished, or weren't forgiven, okay, or felt abandoned, or what have you. Think about Alan saying centuries of violence. He's saying like pillaging and violence, just in the UK, right? Like historically. And then you add World War I, World War II, the Korean War. You add in Hiroshima. You add in COVID. Okay, grief and the negativity that comes with grief is what's weighing the planet down. It's what's in your ancestral lineage. There's been so much grief and suffering that keeps being passed on. And so people are born into bodies in the physical world, and they have this heaviness already from all the grief that was never released through their ancestral lineage. But if you can heal your own grief and reach beyond it, connect to your loved one on the other side, and even more importantly, understand that you will never die, that you're immortal, that you're eternal, that you are loved in a way that you never imagined that you were loved, and that you're perfect, whole, and complete, even when you make mistakes. And I'm saying, especially when you make mistakes, then your life changes, and so does the life of all your children, and even your children's children, because we're all connected. And so the more you lighten up, the more the rest of the world will lighten up, and the grief can be dispelled. He's saying it can be vanquished. Okay, but that's why there's so much negativity in the world. There's so much. It's about grief, loss, suffering, pain. Okay, he says it's not just people, because people are greedy, although that of course is not good. People are greedy because they're fearful. They're coming from fear, so they reach out to grab everything because they don't trust that there's enough abundance, so they're coming from fear. And underneath a lot of that is grief. Okay, so Lisa's asking, am I a happy person? I don't know, Lisa, are you? It's impossible to always be happy here, but that's the other thing. While you're in a body on the earth plane, you're going to have the duality of emotions. You're going to have your up days, you're going to have your down days, you're going to feel happy, you're going to feel sad. I embrace all those emotions. Like the other day, I've written about it, I'll post it soon in the group, but I had a day where I started at the highest of highs that I've ever felt in my whole freaking life, you guys. I kid you not. I was on this high, and then something happened, and it wasn't about anything anybody did. It was just something that happened that I got fixated on, and it just brought me down, and I was so upset, and I was crying and crying and crying, and Alan had to help me figure this out, had to help me process it, had to help me turn it around, but I was grieving kind of like all over again. And that's part of this world, about being here. And he got so upset because he worries so much if I'm down. He cannot be happy if I'm not happy. And by the way, your loved ones are the same way. They see you suffering. They see you crying. They see you grieving and in pain. They feel that. They cannot not feel that, because remember, they're empathic. And so they're crying along with you. Their heart is breaking along with you. So there is some degree of suffering in heaven. Okay, they can turn that off if they want to. Alan says they could back off and go, okay, I'm not going to feel that, but they don't want to back away. They want to try to help us to alleviate that so that we can be together. Right? They don't want to abandon us. They don't want to step away. But if they keep trying to reach out, and we here, are not improving, and we just can't get over it, and we can't reach out to them, then they kind of do back away, because Alan says it can become too painful for them, because they feel everything that we feel on a higher level than we feel it. It's to the point now where I get upset. I tell Alan, oh my God, I don't want you to get upset. I get upset that I'm upsetting him because my pain is his pain, and I don't want to cause him any pain. So I get really upset that I'm causing him pain, because when you really love somebody, you don't want them to hurt, and they don't want us to hurt. Okay, so I don't know, Lisa, if you're happy right now, that's great. And tomorrow you might not be, and that's okay. You can turn that around. Emotions are like the weather, they're going to change. But you can be more happy than not, is what my feeling is for all of us. Okay. So anyway, that's kind of I think that's what he wanted to leave with, right, Ellen? Was that it? And he says, yeah, that there's so much negativity in the world because of the grief. And also, okay, he says also because more people are opening up psychically, whether they believe in psychic awareness or not, everybody's psychic, got it? And they're opening up, they're becoming more sensitive. So when that happens for people, they either step into their sensitivity, try to learn about it, try to figure it out, try to embrace it, hopefully, or they try to shut it down. They try to medicate it. They try to drink it away. They try to stuff food in their mouth so they don't feel it, okay? Because everyone's opening up. It's what they call the ascension. Of the planet's evolving. We're evolving. Who you are is completely psychic and spiritual, not necessarily religious. The real you is not necessarily religious, but it's completely spiritual. Two different things. And so that's happening. And so you're seeing people for whom life is either getting worse and worse, or life is getting better, maybe not quickly, but steadily and surely. Okay, there's two camps, really two camps here. And Alan says you could call it the glass half full and glass half empty camp, or you could call it the, positive camp and the not so positive camp. He's not going to call it negative. He just says the not so positive camp. Or he says, think of them as, that camp is more gloomy and, he says they're naysayers. They just look at things like the worst case scenario. And then there's the other camp that's the best case scenario and trying to stay. You gotta decide. Am I going to be positive and I'm going to be not so positive? And if you're planting your flag, he's saying, in the positive camp, keep it there. Do your best to stay in that mindset, whatever it takes, okay? Because then life will go better for you. But if you start, find yourself slipping down the other side, it's all right. That happens. Please, you're in this group. Call on Alan. He's here to help you with anything. Anything. Okay, can't promise you that everything can be fixed for you, because some things you got to go through yourself. Some things you got to figure out yourself and learn yourself. But there's so much support you can get. There's so many people who have been helped. And that's what we're here to do. You don't ever have to pay us a penny for that. We are here to support everybody. We want people to read our book and help. Like, he wants to help millions of people for free. And there'll be people who will pay us money to work one-on-one with us. And don't worry, we'll make our income that way from them. But we want to help more people because that's what we came here to do. So if he's asking this, okay, he's saying, if you want to help us, if we've helped you for free and you want to help us, how you can help us is just to help us spread the word and get more people to join our group, or call on us for help, or it's truly all we're here to do is to help and to serve. And we know, or will always be provided for. That's not ever been a question. I've always been able to manifest what I needed, and Alan never could believe it. He thought it was he's saying it always blew his mind how I could just like create money or create opportunity, because I lived in the flow and trusted my guidance. I've been trusting it for 34 years now. So yeah, if you appreciate the help you've gotten, and if you want to book a session, great, book a session, help, do it that way, support us that way. But more than anything else, call on Alan for help, because the more you call on him for help, the stronger he gets. The more we can help you. The more we can help you connect to your loved ones on the other side, the more it can help you heal, the more it can help you manifest. Did you know that one of the key pieces of conscious manifestation is getting help from your, quote, friends in high places, meaning, beings in the spirit world, archangels like Alan and Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, or your loved ones in spirit too, right? All your loved ones on this side, what we call your spirit team. They, or Alan is saying we, are part of your manifestation team. So you don't manifest by yourself. And we can help you manifest the outcomes that your soul desires. Especially, he says, especially if it's aligned with your soul's purpose. Because spirit, high-level beings do not help anyone manifest something that's detrimental. That's against spiritual law. But if it's something that's for your highest good, and especially if it's something that will benefit others, they're all on board. And we'll pull out all the stops to help you help yourself. And with that, Alan's saying, we're done. He thinks that that's a good way to end it, put a bookmark in it. We're going to be back on Sunday with talking about signs from the other side, which are everywhere. There's signs everywhere. And the more you start looking for them, the more they show up. But he says they're already there, and some of you haven't noticed all of them. But there will be more if you ask for more. Okay, and start noticing that. Okay, so thanks for joining us for this pop-up live. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought about what we talked about. If you have any questions about what we talked about, post them down below. If you're watching this later, post it down below. Let us know that you watched it. Let us know if you want more lives like this. And Alan's saying, even if some of you don't want more lives like this, you're probably going to get them, because he wants to keep talking about heaven and the other side. Oh, I don't know. God, he keeps giving me one more thing to tell you. Okay, one last thing he wants to tell you. So on the other side, you get to create the home that you want. And this morning, I don't know why it didn't occur to me before. I said, Alan, I want to go back to Lanikai, where we met, and where I gave birth to Taylor, and where we got married, and where we met for the first time and made love for the first time, and our life started. And he said, okay, we're going to do that. You get to heaven. We're going to live. We're going to create that. You can create anything. So I said, we're going to create the house on the hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean, where we could see Maui in the distance and the sun rising over Maui and the two islands, the Mokulo Islands, in front of us. And he says, that's where we'll live. So I start crying. And he says, you got it, babe. We're going to live there. We get to go home. Okay, so, thanks, Debbie Lynn. You love this? All right. Well, we love you guys, and we're sending you a blast of unconditional love. Okay, this group is all about supernatural love, both, especially on the love part. And Maria says, always want more lives. Okay, we could do this today because it was quiet here with the construction. It's been kind of crazy here, but today was quiet. So we'll go live as much as we can. It's because I love to go live, because Alan just comes through so strong and blends with me, and he always wants to share and talk. So call on him for help. Okay, think about what you want to change this weekend. Like, what do I need help with? Call on him. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just say, hey, Alan, like in your mind or out loud, doesn't matter. Hey, Alan, this is kind of what I need help with. This is my question. This is what's going on. Can you help me with this? And then let it go. Trust what you feel, hear, see, or know. And I promise you, hang out in this group long enough, he's going to come through louder and louder. He's just getting stronger. And with that, we'll say goodbye and have a good weekend. We'll see you guys Sunday, right? All right. Take care, everybody. We love you.